Painting without brushes. It can be tricky, but it can also be weirdly satisfying. I've previously made 2 videos where I painted just with a piece of cardboard and I really enjoyed it. So today I thought I would try painting just with sticks. If you're wondering why sticks though, it's because I figured it would be fun to take inspiration from pointillism and try to create a painting from dots. Now, my painting won't be quite as precise as those from pointillism artists such as Sura and Pissarro, but I'll do my best. Let's give it a go. So things to dot with. Ages ago, my friend gave me a rock painting kit and it came with these 2 sticks, which have got different sizes of round end. But I also have a wooden skewer here. It does have a very tiny tip on there, but I'm sure that might be quite good for tiny detail dots. Is that a thing? Also, I found this really old craggy brush. Oh, it's so dead. Oh, look. It actually has this flat end on it, which is very similar to the dotting tools. Looking around the shed, there is also all kinds of things like the ends of paintbrushes, but also like the ends of tools. Like this little file has quite a nice rounded end on it. So, I mean, that could work. So yeah, if you fancy trying this at home, but you don't have dedicated stickage, I mean, why would you? You can definitely just look around, see what else you can find which might be able to lend you its end. So I'm going to use this cheap washi tape. I've not used it and tested whether or not it will rip the paper. So we'll just have to see. So in thinking what to paint, I was searching through pictures and yeah, I know a fox is not the most original thing to paint, but I'm feeling it. I mean, I don't know whether it's a baby fox, but can we just please tooth? I just cannot resist that tooth. So we're going to go with this, but I'm just going to take this part of the head. I don't think I'm going to bother with the body because I think I'm going to kind of, I don't know, dot it off. That sounds weird. It'll make sense. It'll make sense. All right, something has made me pull out deep violet as my background colour because, yeah, I know I should probably dot the whole background colour and I'm afraid I'm going to cheat slightly because that will take me ages. In order to get this video done, we're just going to do a little tiny shortcut, but what I'm going to do is instead I'm going to use a sponge and I'm going to dab. So it's not a dot, but it is a dab. Is that okay? I cannot remember how dark this is, but to a certain degree, I like to take pot luck. See where it takes us. So let's just bung that on there and do a bit of smoosh smoosh. Smoosh smoosh. Smoosh 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 smoosh. Smoosh smoosh smoosh. Oh, this is so good. But you see, the reason I think this is okay is because when you kind of zoom in, the texture of this is sort of dotty. Let's just go with that. Flippin' sponges. They're so great. I mean, absolutely joyful. Does use up a lot of paint though. Okay, purple fingers. So let's leave this to dry. I quite like, why do I even bother putting tape around the edges of things when that happened? I quite like that there is already dottage happening. So yeah, I'm going to leave that to just dry a little bit and then we'll get going on the main dots. I've got a bunch of the yellows and some browns out. I'm not aiming to do a faithful rendition of the colours of that fox on the reference. I mean, originally I had been thinking I would have a blue fox, but then this happened. And of course, purple and yellows always work nicely together, being complementary. So complimentary. No, you're the best. No, you're the best. Alright, here we go. Let the proper stick wielding begin. My first thought is to sketch out my basic outline, which I'm not certain is the best plan. It might be better to just bung on a colour in the middle and start dot feeling my way around. But hey, this is where we're at, so let's go with it. I'm using a dark brown umbery numbery to do my dot sketch because I figure it'll show up just enough for me to see it, but also be able to smoosh back into the purple as the painting moves along. As I'm doing this, for one, it feels rather boxy shape-wise, and for two, the head is much bigger than I wanted it to be on the page. It turns out my brain is finding it hard to connect the dots space-wise. My hand really wants to pull a line from one to another to figure out the shape. And hey, it occurs to me watching this that I could have absolutely done that, because that would still be painting with the stick. But I just had it in my head that this was a challenge about painting with dots, so I was trying to stay with that idea. So, do I go with this larger size and adapt the expectation thoughts in my head, or do I try and backtrack to redo it? Backtrack it is! I used a cloth to take off the blobs of brown as much as possible and then went over it with some more purple. Okay, take two. So this version is a bit smaller. Not that you can see much on the screen because the brown really is doing a good job of being subtle. So let's skip to my first foray into a colour that you can see. I'm starting with this yellow ochre because I figure it's a pretty good middling tone, not too dark, not too bright, and it can smoosh into other colours easily as needed. I'm using the larger of my dot sticks to cover more ground and essentially just blobbing about. Blob, blob, blobbity, blob, blob. My thought here is to get some basic colours on as a grounding. The yellowy browns, some greys, and maybe just block in some points of shadow or light to give me a sense of where the heck this is going. I popped on an audiobook and carried on blobbing. Blobbing is such a funny word to me that I just looked it up to see common usage. And what the flippity is this all about? It's a sport? Right, I think I'm gonna leave it here for a little bit just to dry because it is quite blobby, and therefore as soon as you put other, like while you want some of the paints to be mingling, others it would be quite useful to be able to go straight on top of. So I'm thinking this is a good place to leave it. Also, my fingers are so cold right now. So I think I need to go and have some lunch and warm up a little bit. So yeah, we'll come back when this is a little bit drier and we'll see what we can do with it. One of the most enjoyable parts for me is when I can start adding in more contrasty goodness. It's probably too early to be breaking out the white paint, but I don't care. I'm glad I did, because it's at this point I start to feel like I can see it coming together. Up until now, although I had been enjoying the process of the blobbing, I had been pretty unsure about the painting itself. The proportions of the fox was irking me, the ears especially were befuddling me, and at many points all I could see was the mess. Luckily, I have made enough arty things in my time to know that messiness is often just a point on the map, which eventually becomes a memory in the rear view if I just keep pushing on. And so I'm pushing on and getting into details way too early because it gives me back my direction. I love using this skewer for making tiny dots and dealing with smaller areas like the eye. So whereas with proper pointillism it's all a bit more clean, using patterns of dots to create luminance, my first dot painting is embracing the smush. I really enjoyed putting a blob of one colour down, then a different colour beside it, and then blobbing them into each other. It was a form of blending and colour mixing on the paper that really appealed to me. I also love the texture that is created from all this dotting. I think tiny dots and me have a thing going on. I just find them so relaxing to do, and it felt like this painting really started fizzing when I sprinkled them in. One of the main struggles in painting with dots like this is in creating direction in the fur. It was tricky to suggest a swish of hair tufting out without lines, but using the tiny skewer dots in lines gave me an alternative that I enjoyed. In taking the tape off, and yes, it ripped on one side because of course, I decided to stop for now on this piece. I had originally thought I might create swirls coming from the fox's neck and moving around the page to connect this floating head into the background more. And I might still come back and do that another day, but for now I'm happy to step away. I know it has its problems, the proportions are still a bit off, and I think it could do with more blending, but all in all I feel very kindly towards this painting. I completed it during a really difficult week when all I wanted to do was to sit in a room and cry alone, so getting this painted at all felt like an achievement, and the process of doing it gave me a bit of much needed mental space and rest. I think that is one of the benefits of painting with a limitation of tools or materials. When you only give yourself one tool to use, you give yourself less decisions to make, but you are also pushed to play and accept and problem solve as you go, all inside a quiet bubble where your mind can simply breathe for a bit. Anywho, thanks so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do consider clicking the like button, as it does really help to support my channel, and let me know if you've tried dot painting in the comments. How did you get on with it? Don't forget to subscribe if you feel like coming by again. You are always welcome here. Stay curious, keep making happy, and I'll see you next time.